One person who has documented the life of the Chinese worker, though, is photographer Lucas Schifres, who started taking pictures like these while he lived in China. Faces of Made in China looks directly into the eyes of people producing many of our essential possessions in 6 Chinese factories. Here's Lucas telling me about the inspiration for these.
As a photojournalist in China for 5 years, I've been asked quite often to go to factories to cover China is the workshop of the world story. And, you know, the question was, are they stealing our jobs, or are they polluting the world? Are they producing bad quality products? But I thought we were missing a variable in the equation. So who are these workers? So I decided to give myself an assignment and go back to these factories and make the portraits of the Chinese workers and look at them directly in the eyes and you know, really give the human side of the story.
It's interesting because you sort of isolated them from their background. We sort of see them just on their own, although they might have the tools of the trade with them. You've kind of just want us to focus on the faces themselves.
Yeah, I brought a photo studio inside the factories, and I set it up there, and I asked them to stop work for 1 minute and come to the photo studio with a white or a black background. And this way I could isolate them from the background, because the story is about the people and looking into their faces. So I didn't want anything to distract. I've done these photos of Chinese factory many times, but this time it was about looking into the eyes directly at them. And some pictures are really tight shots. And I hope that the viewer can look directly into the eye of the worker and try to imagine his life, imagine what it's like to be a Chinese worker. So that was the idea.
Tell us about a couple of them in detail then. There's one with a man who I think is using a blowtorch. That's what he does for a living?
Yeah, he works, it's a young Yingsheng. He works with a blowtorch in a steel factory, and that's why he's a little bit dirty. He just stopped work for the blowtorch. And you know, I literally asked them, stop your work and come for a photo, but don't wash your hands or don't wash your face, just come as you are. And he's actually producing, of course with thousands of other workers, he's producing steel cranes. And this is the cranes that are going to be shipped to the ports of the world, and they will unload the containers that will bring more goods made in China to Western countries.
But Lucas,
so,
what kind of reaction did you get when you speak to your subjects and say, just come as you are? I mean, how did they feel about that? Because I imagine, you know, having their picture taken by a professional photographer doesn't happen every day. And do they wanted to scrub up and look their best, probably?
Well, it's about convincing the foreman. When you convince the foreman, then the whole team comes, you know, and they'll just line up very quietly, one after the other, and they have their picture taken. And maybe it's, you know, they were even more impressed by a Chinese-speaking foreigner than the whole photo situation. So they were really interested in talking with me in Chinese, and I was talking with them in Chinese, and as I wanted to make an interview of each of them, but sometimes I felt like they were interviewing